Nothing loves me right now except for family. And we're live here on Facebook. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land and also those watching on YouTube. I promise, Rich, hopefully today I will be able to take some time and get everything uploaded.
I didn't know that they weren't uploaded, so it's okay, Mike.
Yeah. For those that are watching on YouTube or listen in the podcast, I apologize. I've been really sick the last week. Potential surgery, and so because of that, I've been slacking a little bit the last few weeks on getting stuff uploaded, but I will do my best to do that today.
Good deal.
So we also Rich, welcome to you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So got official word that I'm getting a new job over at John Deere. As I'm getting and training starts for that new job on in a couple of weeks, about 3 weeks.
Awesome. Now, is this going to be? Are you going to have to go into an office?
I will. I actually go back to the office on starting Monday because I got to start training the person that's currently in the department that's going to take on some of my responsibilities, and then I'll have to be in office to kind of assist training the backfill once that person gets identified and hired.
Okay.
But it'll be so it's back into the office permanently as the new job is also an on-site position.
Okay.
So my work from home run has ended, but it was a nice run though.
Yeah.
It was always nice to work from home and not have to worry about
commute,
the extra half hour of going into the office.
Yeah. It ends up being a whole hour because it's a half hour there, half hour back.
That's right, it does.
Yeah, it makes for a long day. Add an extra hour to your day that you don't get paid for.
No.
So, we also want to welcome our special guest in this week. Joe Hart is in studio. Joe, say hi to everybody.
Good morning.
So Joe is my father. He is also a sports nut like Rich and I. He'll probably be in the background a little bit today, but we'll bring him in for some when we get to some other stuff. But first, Rich, we don't have a super full show, but we have a lot to talk about when it comes to the games that we watched last week. So I'll put the games from last week and looking forward to the future. Rich, what else do we have to talk about this week?
We're also, in addition to the NFL, we're going to there's some MLB news that Rob Manfred made an announcement about that impacts the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yep.
There's trouble in LA for LeBron James and the Lakers. And we'll be taking a quick look into the NHL to see how our predictions look since the NHL season's been going on for a couple months now.
But first, do you know what it's time for?
Is it time to roll the intro? I don't know why.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. So, first things first, as always, we have to talk about our poll question. Last week's poll question was brisket versus chili when it comes to your tailgating special. Rich, you want to give our opinions first, or you want to do the people's first?
Yeah, we can give our opinions first.
Okay, Rich, where did you vote on this one?
I voted for brisket.
Yeah, I agree. Joe, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, Michael, if you're making the brisket, it's hands down.
Okay, so we are 3 for 3 for brisket. We did have one vote for chili, as the other 6 votes went for brisket. Josh Couture, friend of the show, brother-in-law of yours, was our one vote for chili. I've seen it done. If that's what you want for your tailgate, more power to you if you can pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, I love chili. I really do, as that was basically my lunch all week. We made a big pot last weekend, and then I had leftovers and had that for lunch every day this week. But if I'm given, but I always try to look at this as if I'm given a choice of a plate of brisket or a bowl of chili. I'm gonna pick the brisket every single time.
Yeah,
Even if it's brisket chili, I'm probably gonna pick the plate of brisket.
yeah, yeah.
I've never heard of brisket chili.
Oh, I've done it a few times. When you got leftover chili or leftover brisket, and you're on day 3 or 4 of leftover brisket because you've only had like 5 guys show up to a thing, and you made a brisket for it. You got to do something with it, and a great way to get rid of it is throw it in a chili.
Huh.
So good. So we knew that. I mean, we felt like that was going to happen. Brisket was obviously our number 1 ranked item, and chili was our wild card for the week.
It was that it pulled off a wild card victory by a decisive margin last week.
Yeah,
to get a rematch with brisket in our poll. But we talked about a pregame in our pre-show. I don't think I've ever had a bad brisket anywhere. But Joe, you said that you have had brisket or an average or below average brisket. Where was that at?
Below average. Fast food usually is not fine cuisine, and I find that Arby's brisket is pedestrian.
At best.
Okay.
Like you want to walk on it.
Okay. I haven't had Arby's brisket. Most of the time when I go there, I'm getting a roast beef sandwich because that's what you go to Arby's to get.
Yep. And you got to put horsey sauce on it. I feel like you got to put horsey sauce on it, in my opinion. I love their
I always do at least the Arby's sauce.
So, this week, Rich is going to have the poll question go live probably shortly after. You got it scheduled yet, or are you still working on that?
No, I'll have to put it up either today or tomorrow.
But
we're going to go burgers and pulled pork.
Yeah. Sounds delicious. And, I mean, anything sounds delicious after eating oatmeal, plain rice, and toast for an entire week.
For sure.
So, heading on to the show, let's get into the NFL as we have a tournament pick'em or a playoff pick'em to give for everybody, and weekly performances. Rich, you won the week, picking 5 of the 6 games correct. I picked 4 of the 6. And Midget Nation picked 3 of the 6. These picks and Dupo both picked 0 correct.
Okay, so that broke our tie, Mike.
Yeah.
Between the two of us.
Yeah.
So let's give the breakdown of the matchups. The Bengals beat the Raiders at home 26-19. That was one of them that you got wrong, Mike, as you had the Raiders winning that game. The Buffalo Bills beat up on the Patriots 47-17. We both got that one right. The Buccaneers took care of business and beat Philly 31-15. We both got that right. The Cowboys lost to the 49ers 23-17.
And that's a game that is one of the games that I said look out for that game.
Mm-hmm.
I said I had a hard time picking the Cowboys on that one, but I thought that Cowboys team is just good enough. And we're going to get to it. We'll get to it.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean,
keep going on how we did for the rest of the week.
I was the same way. I think up until we went on the air on Saturday, I had the 49ers, and then I switched once I penciled everything into our book. But we'll get back around to it. The Chiefs beat the Steelers, no surprise there, 42-21. And on the first Monday night playoff game, the Rams took care of the Cardinals 34-11, and we both got the Chiefs and the Rams correct.
Did you enjoy watching So let's start off with, did you enjoy Saturday, Sunday, Monday for the first playoff weekend?
That was great. You could see them all, and it wasn't all jammed up in one day.
Rich, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I liked it, especially the Monday game. Even though it's a Monday night football game, I liked that they they did the simulcast to where it was on ESPN and ABC, so it wasn't exclusive to you having a cable package or be able to log in with a cable provider if you were going to try and watch it on ESPN Plus.
Yeah,
probably the one game that I watched the most of was that Rams Cardinals game, and I watched a little bit of the Bengals Raiders games, but I didn't really watch too many of the games on Sunday just because we had other things going on, and sometimes you gotta, when you only got one TV in the house, sometimes you gotta share the TV. So
I'm blessed to have a wife who's a football fan, so we enjoyed 6 games over the weekend.
Nice.
I'm blessed to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 TVs in the house. So either way, I was able to watch. Last Saturday we didn't know what was going on health wise, and immediately after we got off the air, I went and laid down on the couch down here and just slept / woke up and watched the games and laid downstairs away from my baby and my wife to try to keep my baby safe. And then Sunday was pretty much the same, and so I was able to watch pretty much everything up until the middle part of the Cowboys 49ers game. I actually ended up going to the hospital, and so wasn't able to watch that middle part. Did get to see the end. Totally got to see the end. Don't worry, I got to see that.
All right,
and we're going to get to that. And then I got to watch all of the Steelers game except for maybe 5 or 20 minutes while we ran home from the hospital, and then watched all of the Rams game on Monday night. So I got to watch all of it.
That's good. So I don't think there's really that much to talk about in the Bengals, Raiders, Bills, Patriots, except that it was the first victory that the Bengals had in over, 18 years?
31.
31.
Yeah, no,
and they made a big...
Rich, it's been 31 years since 91.
91.
It was
so
91.
They made it, so Bengals fans that saw that game and wanted to celebrate by sending a text message that the Bengals won a playoff game finally. That was the first time ever that a text message would have been sent about the Bengals winning a playoff game.
Yeah, and that's, or the first time ever a tweet has been made that the Bengals have won a game, which right now doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's kind of a big deal. It's been, that was crazy.
I'm happy for the Bengals because it was their last win was just 3 years after the retirement of Kenny Anderson, who was their quarterback that they got from Augustana College in Rock Island.
Oh, wow. I did not know that Ken Anderson went there.
He had the highest season-long completion percentage record for more than 30 years until Drew Brees broke it 2 years ago.
Okay, so with the Raiders, does the interim coach Rick Basacci deserve to have a serious interview to get the head coaching job?
I think if you're the Raiders, you drop you have to go through the interview process. The rules on that. Does anybody know? Do they have to interview somebody, or do they have to go through the interview process? Do they have to go through the Rooney Rule in order to do that interview process? If they're just going to make the head coach or the interim coach the permanent head coach?
Yes, because otherwise that would be a way to bypass the Rooney Rule entirely.
Okay, it makes sense. I didn't know if anybody if that was still a requirement.
The one exception, which has come up in discussion in the last week, is that if you've got a contract that says that you may sign a contract that says that Coach B will replace Coach A when Coach A retires,
which everybody's talking about, or gets fired.
Yes,
Okay.
when he leaves.
Yes.
They're talking about that's ways to keep people like Todd Bowles in Tampa, Leslie Frazier in Buffalo, perhaps.
I've heard that that's...
Josh
McDaniel.
McDaniel.
Yep. I've also heard that that's kind of what Dallas is looking to do with their offensive coordinator.
Kellen Moore.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
he's likely to be... Basically, they're going to sign a contract that says as soon as we fire Mike McCarthy, which won't be soon enough if he didn't get fired already, you haven't fired him soon enough. But the plan is to actually redo a contract with Ken Moore.
But how do you do it when both your coordinators are really sought after league-wide?
Yeah. Yeah, because in Dallas, I think there was rumors after the playoff game that maybe McCarthy would be let go because Jerry Jones was afraid that they would lose one or both of their coordinators.
So let's get into that game.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because this game, man, the last minute of that game, ridiculous. But Rich, do you want to give us the basic narrative and we'll start doing we'll talk about it?
I think I didn't watch all of this game, but the play you're referring to is the 49ers got off to a big lead, and through the second half they let the Cowboys back into the game, and the Cowboys are driving down the field with less than a minute left.
Well, even before that, there was offsides. It was it was fourth and like inches,
Okay.
and
For the 49ers.
And
At midfield.
And the 49ers take the snap, and they blow the play dead because one of the linemen didn't get set all the way.
They had
Jimmy Garoppolo was so rushed that his lineman didn't get set all the way. Because he doesn't get set all the way, 5-yard penalty, replay the down.
They had a sixth offensive lineman in on the play who was initially set on the left, and he went in motion to the right and didn't let him establish his set position before they snapped it.
Right.
Okay.
And so that's an illegal shift / false start. And so 5-yard penalty backs him up. They now, rather than run a play to try to get the inches, and it was really like that much, Rich. It really wasn't huge.
Okay.
They punt the ball away, giving the ball to Dallas with no timeouts and a minute 50 on the clock to start. And Dallas runs a few plays here and there. Again, no time on the clock, so anytime that it's in bounds, the clock runs down and they have to do the hurry-up offense and either spike the ball or call a play. And then...
inexplicably, the Niners weren't guarding the boundary.
That is very accurate.
Straight
yeah.
passes that were completed out of bounds.
Well, there were 3 straight passes that were completed, and they were completed yards, not just
12, 15 yards.
not just on the sidelines, but 12 to 15 yards into the field of play
near the hash marks.
And these guys were still able to run to get out of bounds. This is how terribly San Francisco was defending at the end of this game.
It was like they hadn't schemed for that situation at all.
Right. They weren't ready for it. And so, how ridiculous is that? Then we have 14 seconds left.
17. That was the crucial thing. It was 17,
14.
not 14. No, it was 17.
It was 14 because
all right, let's keep it moving. Let's not split the hairs here.
All of the guys. This is where it matters, though. All of the guys on all the talking heads that are former players said at 17 seconds it's easy to make this play. At 15 or at 14 or less, it's not. And that's why it was such a critical thing. At 14 seconds. Well, I'll show you later. I promise you, it was 14 seconds.
Okay.
They snapped the ball, and at the line of scrimmage, Dak had called an audible. What's he call? A quarterback run. And he decides he's going to run up the middle of the field. He gets 15 yards.
He slid.
He slides and goes and gives the ball to his center. Everybody gets set. There hasn't been a ref to touch the ball. There hasn't been a ref to touch the ball. Up comes the ref, touches the ball, resets it a yard back.
Well, he runs into Prescott and then the center.
Yep.
As he's trying to cut through them.
Yeah, gets blocked to get up there, touches the ball, sets it a yard back.
So the whole line had to back up a yard because they would have been offsides.
Yep. And then they snap it to clock it, but time had run out. No time on the clock.
Yeah.
Which brings up one of my least favorite rules in the NFL, which we can talk about in a second. But, man, the time management has been the biggest problem for the Dallas Cowboys this year.
Yeah, like for time management and also just in general penalties.
Oh,
useless
penalties. Discipline and time management are the two biggest problems that the Cowboys have.
And those are both coaching issues.
That's exactly where I was going to go with it. Thank you, Joe, for jumping 3 steps ahead of where we were at. I was going to talk about that. By the way, 7 pre-snap penalties by the Dallas Cowboys in that game. 7 pre-snap penalties.
So it wasn't that there were several, but it wasn't all that they were holding, trying to keep Prescott upright or anything like that.
And so the pre-snap penalties, the time management, which is handled by the head coach, these things point to Mike McCarthy being the problem. But we've seen it. How many times have we seen it this year where at the end of the game they either have timeouts left or they don't have enough timeouts or they just don't know what they're doing with time in Dallas?
It's especially been obvious at the end of the halves because most of their games were not close games.
Nope.
So it wasn't crucial at the end of the game, but at halftime they missed several opportunities to put extra points on the board.
Yeah.
So if you're Dallas, so you're under the opinion that Mike McCarthy should be let go.
I think he should have been let go Monday.
Okay. So do you go with the defensive coordinator? So do you go with the guy that has head coaching experience and helped turn around your defense in Dan Quinn? Or do you go with the young guy who you've brought up and groomed as an offensive coordinator after he was your third-string quarterback for a couple of years underneath with Romo and Kellen Moore?
I think this problem this is a multiple stage question. Let me break down why I think that. One, who's making this decision, Rich?
Jerry Jones.
What does anybody know about his thought process?
Nobody knows what his thought process is.
Exactly. So what you and I and my dad will say is going to be completely different than anything Jerry Jones is going to do. Because Jerry Jones is nuts. So we have to put that caveat out there first, I think, right?
That having been said, who would you take to be your coach?
So if it's me, there's the me question, there's the Jerry Jones question, and then there's what do I think the league would do? Personally, I like Dan Quinn. He's got the experience, he understands the job, and he knows the team. I go with Dan Quinn. Where do you go, Rich?
I think I would probably go with Dan Quinn since he has head coaching experience. However, the caveat on what I think the Cowboys would do and Jerry Jones would do would probably go with Kellen Moore.
Okay.
Because that it brings up past because of what they did in the past when Jason Garrett got the head coaching job. He was brought in, he was a former quarterback for the team, was eventually a quarterback's coach, then the offensive coordinator, play caller, and then because they didn't want to lose him to another team, they elevated him to head coach.
Yep.
I think that's what they'll end up doing.
So what do you think they should do?
I think both coaches, both coordinators, are in jeopardy of being plucked away.
Okay, but what should they do?
I think they go with Quinn as head coach and leave Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator because they need to have somebody focusing exclusively on the offense. They need to have a strong offensive coordinator.
Okay. I like that. I like that opinion a lot, and I really do agree with it. Now here's answering question number 2. Or question number 2. What does Jerry Jones do? I have no clue. I think you're probably right, Rich. But honestly, who knows what's in that guy's brain?
Yeah.
He's going to pick,
all fairness,
he's going to pick their quarterback coach in charge of ball inflation, and nobody's going to know who this guy is and never heard of him, and that's who's going to be their head coach.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, it could come down to he gives one between Moore and Quinn, one has the head coaching title and the other becomes the highest paid coordinator to stay with the team and maybe has a title of like associate head coach or assistant head coach.
Yeah.
In addition to their coordinator responsibilities, so he can keep both of them there.
I like that.
But either way, one of those coordinators will be an overpaid offensive or defensive coordinator just to keep both guys in-house if they let go of McCarthy.
Now, here's the third question. If it was any other NFL team, what would they do? And here's my opinion on that. I think they actually, any other NFL team would take and Knowles would get the job. Here's why. The NFL loves young guys. That's the trend we're at right now. We want young, innovative minds. We want to be on the cutting edge. This is what the NFL wants and desires. And because of that, Kellen Moore is the guy who is he's younger. Yes, he doesn't have the experience of being a head coach, but he has the experience of being this great guy that knows the system, and he seems like this offensive guru. And that's what every NFL team is looking for. Look at when we get to finally hiring coaches. That's what you're going to see. The trend is going to be younger guys, probably offensive coordinators, maybe a head coach here and there, but younger coordinators that are offensively minded guys. That's what you see in the league in general, and that's what I think is going to have. That's what I think the rest of the league would do if they had Dallas's stuff. But again, it's Jerry Jones. He might hire you, Rich, because he heard you're great. Nobody knows what's going to happen with that man.
Kellen Moore is just 33. He would be the second youngest coach in recent history to McVay, who was 32 when he started at LA.
Yeah. So I have to say that's what I think the rest of the NFL would actually do.
Okay.
And it makes sense that Jerry would do it because he likes shiny new objects.
Yeah. Rich, you look like you want to talk about that Cardinals-Rams game.
I kind of do, because that kind of brings back, you said that McCarthy's on the hot seat because of what happened in the Cowboys game. Do you think Cliff Kingsbury is on the hot seat with what's happened with the Cardinals? This is the second straight year where they got off to a hot start, and down the stretch on the back half of the schedule, they started folding and losing a significant amount of games and then fall flat in the playoffs.
That's probably, I think next year, yes, his seat is at least warm.
Okay.
And it's in the back of it's on the back burner right now. It's something you need to keep warm. He needs to know that he needs to do something next year. But again, this is only his third
I think.
third year.
Third year.
I mean, for a guy to be in, first of all, for his first head coaching job in the NFL, it's only his third year, and 2 of those years, this is the second time you went to the playoffs on a team from a team that was pretty hot garbage when Bruce Arians got let go.
Yeah, but this is also a team where Kingsbury has his hand-picked quarterback.
Yep.
In Kyler Murray. He's installed his air raid style offense that didn't have the best results at the college level at Texas Tech when he had Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. And 2 straight years, the team sputters down or struggles to finish off the season and then falls flat in the playoffs. Because that game there was some questionable decisions by Murray, and the Rams defense came up with some good plays to put points on the board as well. That wasn't even a close game.
No,
that was hard to watch.
That also,
if you were a Cardinals fan,
that also reminds me
how bad they were playing.
Did the 2-7 games make you think that the 7s shouldn't be in anymore?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I think it's too many playoff teams.
It allows too much mediocrity
I think it
to
gives.
get in.
But I mean, you have the 3-6 game. What about that game with the Bills Patriots? The Bills made the Patriots look like they didn't know they hadn't been playing football this year.
But that's just how strong Buffalo is.
Mm-hmm.
Is it
the 49ers Cowboys game was pretty.
When we get here in a second and we talk about our picks, are you saying that the Bills are that much better than the Cowboys or than the Patriots? And yet, what are you going to do when they come to the Chiefs? Because are you saying that the Chiefs are so much better? I don't know. I think that I don't think that I think the Bills, obviously they're that much better, but are they really that much better?
NFL.com had in their power rankings this week had the Titans as only the 3rd best team in the AFC.
And I can somewhat see that because they built up their wins. They got a lot of their wins when they had Derrick Henry against good playoff eligible teams or average teams.
But guess who's back this week?
He is. But those wins that they got while he was off were against terrible teams that didn't make the playoffs. So they padded their wins and kept the team afloat while Derrick Henry was out. And yes, Derrick Henry is back this week.
And that was a lot of the complaint about the Cowboys, that the Cowboys being in the NFC East beat up on a bunch of dogs.
Hey, no, time out. You can't say that they beat up a bunch of dogs when you have the Philadelphia Eagles did make the 7th spot. They made the playoffs. Whether or not you agree that they should be in the playoffs, they're not a dog team if you make the playoffs. 1, 2, their record was above 500, wasn't it?
9-8.
Okay, but it's still above 500. The Eagles were above 500.
You still had 2 games against the Giants and 2 games against the Washington football team, who was decimated by injuries by the time they played Dallas.
The Redskins had a bunch of injury problems, and it really came up against them when it was time for them to play the Cowboys. And I can get behind that. But the NFC least was not the least this year. They were not the NFC East of last year even. I think you looked at the improvements that those teams have made. Rich, at one point in time, the Cowboys, Eagles, and the Redskins were in the top half of our power rankings and Sports Illustrated's power rankings. So you tell me that they're a terrible division, and yet they have, at one point in time in the season, 3 teams in the top half?
Yeah,
I'm a Packers fan,
yeah.
and I would not hesitate to put money on the Bears going against the Eagles.
I would. As a Bears fan, I would.
Okay.
But
So
I would say the NFC least is better than at least the NFC North.
Yeah.
Rich, agree or disagree?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think right now I think the North is probably your weakest division out of the 6 divisions in football right now.
I'm just saying, don't say that don't sleep on the Cowboys. They were the number 3 team in the conference.
But they went 6-0 in their division.
Okay. You know who didn't go 6-0 in their own division?
Packers.
Yeah. If you're gonna say that because they went 6-0 in their division and they went in a weak division, that they're not the team that their numbers say, then what are the Packers? They're not the team that their numbers say because their numbers say they're a great team, but they didn't even go 6-0 in their own division, which is probably the weakest division in the league right now.
The Cowboys were barely 500 outside of their division.
They were above 500. They were 1 game above 500.
Yes.
Still above 500. Above average.
And so we want people that are just barely above average, the least above average you can be and be above average, and call them great.
I didn't say they were great. I'm just
They
saying
were good enough
I'm
to make
saying
the playoff.
they were a good team this year, and they were a better team than showed up last week.
I'm saying the number 3 seed was inflated.
I would disagree.
All right. So kind of getting back to your question, I mean, do we need to have 7 teams make the playoffs plus your number 1 overall seed? The only thing that I like about it is that it does make the number 1 overall seed that much more important because they're the only team that gets a first round bye in addition to that home field advantage. Whereas before you had the number 1s and the 2 seeds getting a first round bye.
Yep.
That's the only thing that I like about it, of having 7 playoff teams
No,
instead of 6.
I like having 2 byes because it's not unusual for there to be one hugely dominant team. One team that's a couple games better than the rest of the league, the rest of the conference. But having the second team get a bye.
But again, I actually would agree with Rich. I think one team making that number 1 seed that much more worth it gives you more incentive to play for it, which could make that last game. Now, this year was again, we're looking at an extra game, so it's hard to say rules, exceptions, all that stuff. But this year was a little bit different because we're looking at it. But except for the Packers, every other game mattered this year. This on week 18, when we all thought that it wasn't going to matter. So Rich, I would agree. I think I think it's rough having that 7th game, but I like having it there. Let's move on as we
Can
have.
I talk about Cliff Kingsbury
Sure.
for a few more seconds?
Sure.
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
Kingsbury, it's the 9th straight year that Kingsbury's coached teams, Texas Tech, and before that, I believe it was Wichita State,
Okay.
were much above 500 in the first half of the season and much below 500 in the second half of the season. It's the 9th straight year. It's been everywhere he's been. It's been different teams, different competition levels.
Yeah.
But it's been consistently that he's had substantial fall off.
That's a good stat. I did not know that stat. Did you know that, Rich?
I did not. I only heard about them talking about the last 2 years with Arizona.
Wow. I would say that, that in and of itself would be enough for me to say time to start thinking about moving on. Rich, you already said it's time to make a hot seat there, right?
Yeah, I think it's a hot seat, especially if it happens the third year in a row. I mean,
I think
maybe you,
even if,
maybe you,
go ahead.
maybe you consider the injuries that happened to the team this year. When you lose your number one wide receiver like DeAndre Hopkins, that can totally change how you play offense. And then they also had their running game got hurt when as James Conner and Chase Edmonds were going back and forth between one being active and one being on the injured list.
Yeah.
Back all throughout the second half of the year too. So maybe with a healthy team, they don't have the problems down the stretch next year that they've had in years past. But I definitely think he's at least on a hot seat.
Yeah.
At a minimum, a warm, but I think it's a hot seat.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on to the divisional round this week. We have 4 games to predict. So let's start off with Tennessee hosting the Bengals, the weakest number 1 seed in the division of the 2. Let's go with Rich. What do you think is going to happen here?
I'm going to go with well, first off, none of these teams that I'm picking, I don't have any confidence in them because I really do believe that all of these all of these teams are evenly matched, and I could see anybody winning these 4 games. And it's not going to surprise me one bit based off of the results. But with Derrick Henry coming back and the Titans having a good run game even without Derrick Henry, or at least a lot better one than we thought they would have, I'm going to go with the Titans. Although because the Bengals are hot, I could see them pulling the upset.
Joe?
Derrick Henry is going to be a difference maker. The question is, how strong is he? What's his endurance like? What's his football shape? We'll see that, I think, very early on. If he is not in great shape, if he can't take 20 carries, I think Burrow's got enough to these one-off games, these win or go home games, they're very commonly dominated by strong quarterbacks, and so I think Cincinnati has a chance here, but I think the Titans are too physically strong, and I think they'll just overwhelm the Bengals.
So your pick is the Titans?
I'm picking the Titans.
So he changed it, folks. He originally picked it.
You can do that,
and that's the joy of this. I also too am picking the Titans. I think that's. I mean, I just think that the Titans look like the team to. They look like the class of at least their division, and Cincinnati, as great as they look so far, haven't come up against a run game like Derrick Henry. I don't think many people have. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with the Titans as well. Let's move to the game that only one of us cares about, and the other 2 of us hopes the team loses. It's hosting it. Packers host the 49ers in chilly Lambeau Field, where the the temperature at the start of the game is supposed to be like
5 above.
5 above, okay, with a wind chill of probably negative 22. So yeah, Joe, you're on the seat. Who you picking?
Again, because of strong quarterback play, I think the Packers win. I can't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. You don't know which Jimmy you're going to get, and that's just too big of a question. Packers at home in the cold.
The NFC runs through the North this year, and it runs through the coldest place to play football in the NFL, and that cold helps. I'm picking the Packers. Rich, who you got?
I'm going to go with the 49ers.
You're going with the Sunshine team.
I am, only because what do most teams do when it's cold and windy?
Run the ball.
What's San Francisco do really well?
They do run the ball quite well.
And that's why I'm going with it. And even if Jimmy Garoppolo's shoulder injury, I mean, if he hits the turf wrong or he just isn't 100%, I think that offense can run just as well with backup quarterback Trey Lance.
We need to talk about Jimmy's future. And again, I don't want to do it until they're out, because I think when they lose makes a difference on what what happens to Jimmy Garoppolo. So
I don't think it does.
okay,
But we can touch on this
touch on
once
that
San Francisco is out. All right, so game number 3, we're going over to Sunday.
Bills
The
get
Chiefs,
out of the cold.
Bills.
The Bills get out of the cold to come to Kansas City, where it's still going to be chilly, just not negative or negative 10. They're not going to be drinking broth instead of drinking Gatorade. I'm picking the Chiefs on this one. I mean, how do you pick against Patrick Mahomes right now?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Chiefs here, but that early season victory that the Bills got over the Chiefs could be their formula to beating them again. I think this is going to be a shootout though, and it could come down to the team that has the ball last.
Okay.
The early season victory by the Bills was against a different Chiefs team. The Chiefs didn't have their offense figured out at that point. The Chiefs' defense has slipped a bit in the second half of the season, but I again go with the stronger quarterback. I think Mahomes is better than Josh Allen, even though Allen's going to be a generational talent. I think that the Chiefs are just too strong.
Okay. All right,
and
the final
Clyde
matchup.
Edwards-Helaire is supposed to be back for the game tonight, so that will help the Chiefs' running game, keep it balanced, keep the Buffalo defense wondering.
Okay, final matchup is the Rams head to Tampa Bay, where they face the Buccaneers, and Tampa Bay. So I'm picking the Rams on this one. I mean, my pseudo man crush on Matt Stafford has not died yet, so I gotta pick that guy.
Stafford is hot and cold, not as bad as Garoppolo, but Stafford can have a clunker of a game now and again. I don't think with the injuries and the defections from the Bucs, though, I don't think they can take advantage of it. They've not announced yet whether the two offensive linemen, Ryan Jensen and Tristan Wirfs, they haven't said whether they'll be playing or not. But I just worry that they won't be strong enough up front to keep that monster defense that the Rams have out of Tom's lap.
So you're picking?
I'm picking the Rams.
Okay, and Rich?
I'm going with the Rams too. It's hard for me to pick against the Rams because they're the team I predicted to win the Super Bowl this year. So, and I also think the injuries are just going to be too much for Tom Brady to overcome. Not only to the two offensive linemen you mentioned, Joe, but also to the offensive players they lost toward the end of the regular season, and like Chris Godwin, playoff Leonard Fournette.
But weren't both those guys
too
moved from doubtful to questionable?
Godwin's out.
No.
Godwin's out.
Godwin
Okay.
tore his ACL. He's done.
Oh, yeah,
I think
that's right.
Fournette could come back, but
he's
their running
questionable.
game hasn't been the same
So
since he went down.
So he is questionable. Fournette is up to questionable. So he practiced with the team 2 days ago. So,
but with the suspect offensive line again.
Yeah, that losing.
It's the offensive line that really does it for me.
If Wirfs and I think it sounds like Jensen's practicing and looks like he's probably going to play.
Jensen's pretty sure.
Wirfs is still at best questionable, if not doubtful, at this point.
I think he's officially questionable, but
I think his questionable is probably closer to a doubtful. I think questionable it's the playoffs. You can't say doubtful until the last minute. So, I think that offensive line being as bad as it is, we're not gonna see the Tom Brady that we're used to. Real quick, Rich, anything else in the NFL before we move on?
Not really. So if you're playing in our pick'em this week, make sure that you have your picks locked in before the kickoff of each of those matchups, and we'll give you a recap from our pick'em when we come back next week. So, Mike, we got a little bit of an MLB update to give.
Well, and what time does that game start today, Rich?
I think the first game is around 2:30, 3:30 Central Time, I think. But you can make picks up until the individual games kick off. It's not when the first game kicks off.
But make sure you get your first pick in before 2 o'clock today.
That's right.
Just do that. After that, we don't care. Okay. What were you saying, Rich?
Going over to the Diamond.
Yeah, let's head to the Diamond.
Still really no update on what's going on with the labor negotiations, really. Supposedly, the Players Association is going to be making a counter offer in the next couple of days, so we could have something. We might have that to talk about next week.
Yep.
But what happened this week, Mike?
So Rob Manfred has informed the Tampa Bay Rays that the league has rejected their hopes and plans to split home games between Tampa and Montreal.
Montreal or Monterey?
Or
Montreal.
Montreal. Yeah, they wanted to go up to Canada and bring Canada some baseball again. Other than the Orioles, but you know.
The Blue Jays.
Or Blue Jays.
Probably are the closest. Yeah, they were going to be the X-Rays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Supposedly. Or that was like the joke around it is, they'll be the X-Rays. The Expos Rays. But yeah, I think that was the right thing to do. It'd be hard on the players to have to adjust to having two cities calling home. I mean, and they kind of saw what it looked like when the Blue Jays had to split their home schedule between Buffalo and Toronto.
Yeah.
Of how difficult that was, and at least with Buffalo and Toronto, they knew the Jays knew when their time in Buffalo was going to end.
Yeah.
They were given a day. All right, this is when we leave Buffalo, and we're going to go back up to Toronto for the rest of the year.
And it's only an hour and a half between the two.
Right.
And there's not as big of a difference. Yeah. Whereas I think the Rays were saying, well, we'll do they were going to do the first half of the season, the first couple months in Tampa, then go up to Montreal, and then when it started getting cold in Montreal again, they were going to go back to Florida to finish out the season. So I think there was just too much logistics involved.
Yeah.
It also...
I was mistaken. I thought they were talking about Monterey, which was interesting. No. They could dominate the Mexican market there. Monterey is a bigger town than Tampa Bay is.
Yep.
And I think there's the support for baseball in general in Mexico that could make that go. Montreal, being a francophone, a French-speaking city, really isn't as tied into American interest as...
Except for... They loved having the Expos there.
They weren't the last few seasons. They weren't doing 10,000 a game.
They're not doing 10,000 a game in Tampa, and they're making the World Series every year.
Well, here's why the team didn't do well in Montreal. It's because ownership saw that they were losing so much money with the strike that they just sold off their best players.
Yep.
So if you see ownership sell off your best players, are you going to come and support that team?
That's true.
At this point, I think we need, does this put either the writing on the wall for, that Tampa will then start looking to just flat out move?
I think so. They're just waiting for that lease.
Or are they?
I think they're just waiting for that lease to run out at the Trop, which isn't going to happen until 2028.
Ugh.
Do they do Montreal or do they do something like?
No, they
want to
do. They want to do Montreal.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, ownership wants to go up there, so that's where
here's
they're
the
going to
thing.
go.
I think it works out better for baseball too, because that leaves Montreal as a market that they could potentially put an expansion team into, and they can make a lot of money off of expansion fees than they can of just letting a current franchise just move up there as well. But on the one idea that I saw on the comment on MLB Traders was, what? Why don't Tampa and Raleigh-Durham switch? The Durham Bulls become the new Major League Baseball team, and the Tampa Bay Rays turn into a AAA franchise.
I like it.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about.
I don't like
expanding to Carolina.
I mean, there's not a team there.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
But Raleigh-Durham and not Charlotte.
I think the history of the of the Bulls, or the Raleigh team there,
Durham. So I mean, you do have another pro franchise in the Durham area, as you got the Carolina Hurricanes. So it isn't like they're going to be the only pro franchise in Durham. So in the Raleigh Durham area, and you don't have a Major League Baseball team anywhere in the Carolinas.
Yeah, I like it. I like the idea of moving there. Now, here's a question: do you think that the MLB would have allowed Detroit to do a Montreal split?
I don't think they want to see any team do a split, whether it's putting a team in the U.S. with Canada, or splitting a season with any two cities.
Yeah.
Even though the Rays owner Stu Steinberg claims that this is going to be the wave of the future.
Do you do a split with Raleigh Durham and Charlotte?
You could.
No.
No.
I think you could.
I think that's more viable, but I don't think you do it.
But I mean, I still think. I mean, they either need a new stadium that's going to be easier for Rays fans to get to, or they just need to move. Whether that's into an easier area to get to in the Tampa area, or move to another city like Durham or Montreal, Nashville, somewhere in the area to where it's not going to have to cause another franchise to move divisions to realign them. Or even Orlando.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's skip the NFL standings as NHL standings, as we're about 56 minutes in to the show, and I know
longer than I thought we would.
To be
honest with you,
you have to get going here soon. We're going to do a quick hit with this one. LA is not the team that the money that they're spending and the names that they brought in would suggest they are. They have been failing to show up between injuries and just piss poor play. Pardon my language there, but between those two things, it looks like LA is not performing, and it looks like LeBron's not going to get a championship this year.
Darn.
That's what it looks like. It's to the point where it seems like the rumor mill is making it seem like their head coach Frank Vogel is on the hot seat, and every game he loses could be his last.
Now, they are seeded currently number 7 in the West, which would get them in the playoffs, but that's not what they were building for. They were building for a championship, and number 7 isn't going to cut it.
But again, here's my thing on that is playoff LeBron is a legit thing. How many times have we heard him say, I'm just getting to the playoffs? And then once he gets to the playoffs, he turns into this beast of a machine and puts 5 guys on his back and carries them and wills them to the championships.
But if
they're the number 7 seed, they're going to have a harder trip getting to that finals.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing at all. I'm just saying those are, how many times have we seen that as a thing? Do I think that that's going to happen here? Probably not.
And chemistry becomes an issue. First off, when you buy the best players, and the Rams have been held up as a poster child for that. You can buy all the best players, but they may not make a team. The Lakers are not a team right now.
They are not a team. In fact, they are looking to sell off Russell Westbrook.
How can you sell a $44 million contract?
I don't know how, especially when you're playing so bad you hit the top of the backboard trying to make a shot.
Yeah, and I've seen how there's supposedly a trade rumor that's involving Anthony Davis,
who was
the guy that LeBron James mortgaged LA's future of young players that they drafted the year before they signed him away to get, because that was the missing piece that LeBron wanted to play with.
Yeah, it is a disaster in LA right now. And I'm sorry, LA fans. This is what happens when you change the name of the Staples Center.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, you know who won't be at fault if they don't win the championship?
LeBron.
Yeah. Because LeBron will say, well, we just didn't have the right
Look
team.
how
I
good,
didn't have the right players around me.
Look how good I played. Yeah, I agree. It's a little ridiculous on how it's going to play out, and we all know how it's going to look, and LeBron's going to try to come off squeaky clean, which he shouldn't. This is all the making of LeBron James. Why? Because this is what he wanted, and he got the team he wanted, and nobody's doing anything.
But he's done it in every stage of his career. The lottery to see where he was going to go before he went down to Florida. The coaching situation in Cleveland that he totally disrupted. It almost becomes a question of, is LeBron the problem?
That's a great question. I think the bigger problem is that too many people are having the conversation, is he the GOAT? To step back and ask the question, is he the problem? I think he is a distraction. I don't know that I would necessarily say he's the problem. He is at minimum a distraction. He could be a bit of a problem. He could be at least a symptom of the problem of the NBA.
But the other GOAT that's playing right now, Tom Brady, has formed a team around him. He's controlled a lot of the personnel issues, getting Gronkowski in there and then getting AB in there.
He got AB in there.
And
how's that working for him?
But it did. It did last year.
It did.
And it was the first half of this year. And Brady's able to exert that control without it being destructive.
Okay.
But LeBron really hasn't.
Rich, we're limited on time for you, so anything else?
Keep going.
Well,
we're fine.
We've
limited on time in general. So
we've hit all the points. We've hit all the points that we wanted to talk about today. Was there anything else? Did you have any final thoughts on the NBA stuff before we get to our shout-outs? And
not really. I also think, LeBron is partially to blame for this. If he has the front office's ear, like everybody assumes that he does, do you as a leader on that team step up before they pull the trigger on the trade and say, hey, I don't know if this is going to work. Why don't you see if we can get this guy instead, who I think would work in our system better? Because it doesn't. Westbrook has always been like a me first ball handling guy. Yeah. He's not.
I think that $45 million contract is too heavy.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna have to pay half of that in order to get rid of the guy. So.
And how much money does that leave you under the NBA salary cap to pay other
fill
players?
Out the rest of the team?
Yeah. Okay, Rich. I know you have a shout out today. I see no video shout outs, comment shout outs. Let me check on a couple other spots. No shout outs for our poll question. So, Rich, and let's get your shout out for the week.
Oh, yeah. A happy birthday to my brother-in-law, Josh, who's celebrating a birthday here real soon, or already has.
Well, you're celebrating today.
We are celebrating his birthday today, yes.
So, okay, folks, it was great to have you here. Rich, thanks for joining us. Joe, thank you for joining us. Potentially might see him next week. It depends on my health situation and our baby's health situation at the moment. So look out for that. Rich, people are watching us on Facebook, but they want to put us in their car and take us with them. What should they do?
Pull up, search for Balls and Sticks, the podcast, wherever you find your other podcasts, as you can find us just about everywhere on the various podcasting platforms. And Mike, if they're listening to us in the car and they may want to leave a shout out and how can they get a shout out, Mike?
So you can get a shout out from a couple different places, but we're gonna send you over to facebook.com/balls and sticks. If you go to facebook.com/balls and sticks, that's where you can like us and watch. That's where you can watch our live videos if you want to participate on Saturday mornings at 10:30 roughly is when we go live. But if you like us, you will get the notification on when we go live. Also follow us on there. You can also join the Fans of Balls and Sticks page, which is facebook.com/fans of Balls and Sticks. And finally, we ask that you go to YouTube. Like us at YouTube, subscribe, like the video, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications when we post our videos live. Now it's time to roll the outro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.